All right, guys, tonight's homework is super short, so get out your whisk notes and let's get started. Today we're talking about how to write a formal summary, or just going over everything we've been talking about this week in class. By the end of tonight's homework, you should be reminded of everything that's needed in order to write a proper summary and be ready to take attempt 2 tomorrow in class. We're going to go over name it, verb it, big picture one more time, the rule of 5 jot dots, and how to use or get the best use of textual support in your summaries. So don't forget, anytime you see that pencil, get your whisk out and make sure you're taking down some notes. So first of all, a summary should be a lot shorter than the original text. It needs to contain significant paraphrasing where you're turning the words into your own language rather than directly copying the words, phrases, or sentences. So really try to move it into your own language and don't copy straight from the article or text. It needs to include the main ideas in order, in chronological order, so this happened first, second, third, etc. You need to leave out a lot of the details, most of the details really. Leave out your own personal opinion and any outside information that you might know about the topic from somewhere else, like maybe you've watched a show about the topic or you've read other articles about the topic. Leave that out. You're focusing only on what you're reading in that particular text. And then also, coincidentally, it doesn't need to have a formal conclusion, which is kind of odd, but you don't need to stress yourself out over trying to figure out a way to wrap up a summary. It just isn't necessarily needed. So why do students seem to struggle with summaries? Well, basically, it's you're walking a fine line behind figuring out how much to include. Sometimes people include too much or they include too little. You've got to find that good medium base point on how much information to include. Again, a lot of students have a hard time with plagiarizing. They're copying down directly from the text instead of paraphrasing it into their own words. Sometimes people have a hard time with sequence of events on the information, so they'll add a key point and then keep going and then be like, oh, I forgot this one, and randomly put it in towards the end when it probably should have come second. So you have to be really careful about making sure that the events that you're including, the information you're including, goes in the same exact order as the article. Remember to state what is being summarized. That's why we put so much emphasis on that name it, verb it, big picture, because by doing that little process, you are stating the article, the title of the article and the author that you are in fact summarizing. Not only does it elevate your writing and let people know what it is you're talking about, but it's a really important piece to get over that plagiarizing idea and to let everybody know that this is in fact what you're talking about. Sometimes students also have a hard time getting stuck in a particular part. Like maybe they found one piece to be super interesting and they add a whole bunch of information and details from that one section of the article when it's really not important or needed. They just found it interesting. So be careful. Pull yourself back from that if you find that you're kind of fascinated about the topic that we're learning and you start putting down a lot of details. Because remember, a summary should not have details. Most of the details need to be taken out. Okay, so first step in creating a summary. Again, this is everything we've been talking about over the last 3 days in class, so hopefully this is just review for you. But step 1 is to create the 3-part summary topic sentence, which is the name it, verb it, big picture thing that we've talked about. So name it, obviously you're just naming the title of the piece and the author if it's given. The verb is just carefully choosing from the list of verbs that I've given you, or choosing something else that will work. Don't be limited by what I've given you. It's just a start. So if you want to get out a thesaurus or something and start looking up other words, something that also means discusses or restates, or some of those words that we really have used in the past, feel free to do that. And then the big picture is basically stating the main idea of the selection. I know sometimes from even myself, I've had a hard time figuring out the big picture. So what I'll do is I'll skip that part and I'll go to the jot dots. And sometimes just doing the jot dots portion will actually help me focus and zero in on what that big picture is. So if you find that you're stuck with the big picture and you can't figure it out, there is nothing wrong with moving on to the jot dots and coming back to it later. Just don't forget to include it when you go to write the actual summary. So this is just a small list of some of the verbs that we've used in class. I think some of these are better than others. I really enjoy the words describes, explains, discusses. Also, explores, illustrates, teaches, and compares are great. Tells and lists are kind of iffy. Shows, kind of iffy. But all of these above are vastly better than just listing, this article is about. Because again, just like I've said the last couple of days, really we're working on trying to elevate your writing. Hopefully you know how to write a paragraph. How can we make you write a paragraph better? And maybe you've tried writing summaries before. How can I help you write a summary better, basically? Okay, step 2 in writing a summary are the jot dots. Now this is your opportunity to sort through the text that we're reading and pull out 3 to 6 key points that are really important to what we're reading. I really want you to stick to 3 to 6, and this is going to help you maintain a shorter summary, by the way. These points really need to be put together in order. This happened first, second, third, and so on. And then remember to follow the rule of 5 for each of these entries. So every entry should have 5 words or less. So this is really, think about, the name it, verb it, big picture, and jot dots as just your brainstorming and getting ready for the summary. I'm not asking you to write down the entire summary in these jot dots. I'm trying to keep you to be brief. And then the jot dots also, by going in the rule of 5, makes certain that you're paraphrasing or turning the words into your own, because by looking at a 5-word or less jot dot, you then have to translate that into a full, complete sentences in your own words. So that's kind of the purpose behind that. So let's look at an example here. So this is for a pretend article called Take Cover from Tornado Magazine or something. So by naming it, we're going to say the article Take Cover from Tornado. We don't have an author listed, so we'll just go with the title. And then the verb I'm using is describes. And then the big picture is the importance of being ready for tornadoes. So that topic sentence would read, the article Take Cover from Tornado describes the importance of being ready for tornadoes. It's a fantastic intro sentence, and that's kind of the whole point of name it, verb it, big picture. Now, as far as the jot dots, the important pieces, I went ahead and wrote down 5. So saw tornado, took shelter, storm cellar, learned safest part of house, tornado resistant buildings. So those are all my jot dots. Now let's take a look at the actual summary paragraph that was created from that. So the article Take Cover from Tornado describes the importance of being ready for tornadoes. A young man named Dale saw a tornado headed toward a school. He quickly drove to warn the teacher to get all the students in the storm cellar. People need to learn the safest place to go during tornadoes. Buildings need to be built to help keep people safe during these dangerous storms. So I pretty much went through all the jot dots, put it together in a couple of sentences, and that's really all you need to do. Just remember that your jot dots are nice and short and concise, 5 words or less, but then you need to translate them into full, complete sentences in the actual paragraph. So keep that in mind. Now, as far as textual support, basically what it is using quotes from the text. The reason to use it is it elevates your writing, and if you're using any facts or statistics from the text, it gives you validity or truth to what you're writing. Using facts or excerpts from the article if it's nonfiction, or using quotes from the text if it's fiction, is whenever we refer to textual support, that's what we're asking you to do. And really only use it if it fits with what you're writing. In other words, don't just stick something in there just because you think it's needed. You need to introduce it, and it needs to make sense with what you're writing. You can't just leave it hanging there with no introduction or reasoning. So keep that in mind. Challenge yourself if you can. But we'll continue working on textual support throughout the year. So if you don't have it yet, don't worry about it. But it is something to start thinking about and practicing. All right, now you're done with tonight's homework. Told you it was super fast and easy. Don't forget to go back to your WISC and complete the summary and the question for this section of the packet. And I'll see you in class tomorrow to grade it. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.